What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad would be T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigos.
Let's do this. And how they handled, the championships with COVID and all. But MLB looks really bad. Looks really bad. And I say that because Dodgers star third baseman Justin Turner was pulled mid-game, 7th inning, after a positive COVID test. So you mean to tell me you didn't know that he was positive before he played the first 7 innings? After the 7th inning, you feel like, yeah, well, we ought to pull him now. And then he joins the team after the game with no mask in their celebration of the championship. Do you think, my question is, should he be penalized in any way, shape, form, or fashion? Because right now, MLB, you let him play. Unless you're telling me you got the results back in the 7th inning and you said pull him. So you didn't know before he walked out on that field that he had COVID. How do you look right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How bad do you look? The fact that, and then you want to get upset at him because not only was he out there celebrating, but he wasn't wearing a mask while he was celebrating. Well, Joker, he didn't have a mask on while he was playing the game.
Right, for those first 7 innings.
Right. Mm-hmm. So now it's necessary. Come on, he was in the dugout with them with no mask. Mm-hmm. He was in the locker room with them with no mask. Mm-hmm. And now you're saying, yeah, he shouldn't have been out there. I don't know if I'll ever win a championship again. I'm going to celebrate with my squad.
Exactly.
I was a part of this championship. I played the game.
Yeah. And
now you're telling me you can play the game, but you cannot join in on the reindeer games afterward. You're not a part of the after party.
Right. I think it begs the question on a number of fronts. To answer your first question, should he be penalized? I don't think he ought to be penalized. I mean, they had, some protocols and some rules and regulations that said if a person tests positive, there is some level of quarantine that joker is supposed to undergo. Obviously, that was flouted or kicked to the curb for the first 7 innings of the game. And if that is the case, all bets are off. If y'all letting them play through the first 7 innings, looks like the Dodgers were in control of the game, up 3-1, eventually ended up winning it. He played through the crucial parts of the game. Go ahead and let it ride. You guys didn't enforce your rules. Eat that and own it. After the game, to your point of he celebrated with the team, he had all the blood, sweat, and tears, all these, series they came up into this game 6. They were down 1-3 against the Braves in the series that they should have lost, but they snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat. He said, hey, man, we came too far to turn around now. Right. So I'm coming out here to celebrate. And because this is the last game, effectively, of the season, it's not like the spread of this is going to affect other teams now because the season is over with. Right. I'll deal with whatever the repercussions are as they come. I think another thing, a sidebar to this on a larger scope relative to the whole COVID-19 piece in and of itself, could it be that, now I'm not into conspiracy theories, but jokers have done janky things before, so we're not putting anything past anybody. Even the Bible says all things are possible. So it could be that some of the hubbub that we've heard about the COVID-19 virus in and of itself might not be as detrimental, I'll say, as it has been first portrayed. When it first came out, there were some projections that some 2 million people were going to die. Now, if any person dies, condolences to them. One death is too many, but one death is a whole lot less than 2 million that were projected. Right now, I believe it's hovering somewhere around 200,000 and change, which is still a large amount, but it is a tithe, if you will, of 2 million.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So 90% of that projection was off, is what that means.
Right.
The other part is that his teammates, when he came out on the field, knowing that he had tested positive, didn't repel him and say, hey, man, what you doing? Get away from me and my family. Don't be taking pictures with us. Go on back to the dugout, man. You better go on somewhere before I found you. Right. They didn't do that. They was hugging him, slapping fire with him. What's up, man? Which means that the impact of it, if not in, the physicality, at least in one's mentality, is that it ain't that big of no deal.
Right.
Now, you have things like the regular influenza, you have the common cold, you have other ailments that have been around for time immemorial that we've had to deal with, but didn't have the attendant drama and hyper ooga booga-ness surrounding it.
Right.
So what his celebration, celebratory, actions had done, and in this post-celebratory aftermath, not seeing any of the Dodgers dropping like flies, may mean that, hey, man, the reason why I came out there because I didn't think it was that big of no deal. I didn't think I should have been pulled, which is why I played the whole first seven innings of that game anyway. I wish y'all wouldn't even pull me for them last couple innings. I want to prove to y'all that it ain't that big of no deal, particularly if you're asymptomatic. I'm out here. We did our thing. It's done now. Water under the bridge. Let it go. What we ought to do now is put forth a real explanation and a level of expectation of what COVID-19 protocols really look like. And what I mean by that, and I'll wrap this up, is that if it is something that is an illness, and I'm not denying that it exists, okay, cool. I'm just saying the mortality of it might not be as bad as what was said before. And just like if somebody's coming around you and they got a cold, and they got the sniffles, they got the flu or whatever, you tell them, hey, man, look, why don't you stay at the crib for a few days, get better, get some rest, take your medicine, and when you get back healed, you can come on back to the office. I'm just saying treat this like that because that's what it's looking like it is.
Right. This is, for me, it looks, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today is preparation. It looks like just terrible preparation on MLB. Mm-hmm. Because the thing that makes you've got multi-billions of dollars to eliminate as many of these scenarios that you possibly can. That's why you pay these cats the big bucks for scenarios. For just in cases. And this was one of those cases that was just in. Matter of fact, just in was on this case. So
he got bars.
Right. So somebody should have been prepared for if this happens, what do we do? Mm-hmm. Unless this is what it was, and then you throw it out there in the media like, yeah, it wasn't our fault. Let me read this scripture over in Proverbs chapter 30, verses 25 through 28. It talks about being prepared, and it says, the ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a feeble folk, yet they make their homes in the crags. The locusts have no king, yet they all advance in ranks. Mm-hmm. The spider skillfully grasps with its hands, and it is in the king's palace. What we got to understand is preparation time is never wasted time. And I want to switch gears over into the NFL and how in the NFL, we have a lot of injuries in the NFL and a few injuries to season-ending injuries to major players. My question is, do we think that because of a lack of preparation because of the preseason. Because if you really look at this, we're in week 6.
Yep.
Week 6 really would be week 2 because 4 of those games would be preseason, where you're working out kinks, where you're getting your body, you're not going full speed, you are having contact, but your body is getting used to this. But you went full bore from the minute you got here. And I don't even think they had, maybe a month of preparation. How do you prepare yourself for a month to get hit by a car? They say a tackle in pro football is the equivalent of having a car accident.
Yeah.
Having your body. How do you prepare yourself in a month to keep having car accidents?
Yeah.
Mentally and physically. And so I'm looking at this and I'm going, preparation is majorly key. And, I read this quote that says, rising to the occasion is a myth. We operate on the level of our preparation.
Ooh.
They just gonna rise up to the level when it's time to play. They're professionals. Listen, you operate on the level of your preparation. There's another quote I read that says this: have thy tools ready, God will find thee work. Nice. So you got to be prepared for this.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at Odell Beckham Jr. Out for the season. Gone.
Yeah.
Injury. And this is a guy who physically looks like he's got 2% body fat, ready to go, and was doing damage this year. Knee injury. Then you got Dak Prescott. Out for the season. And because of him being out for the season, injury, ankle, wasn't it?
Yep.
Broken ankle.
Broken and dislocated.
Dallas Cowboys look so discombobulated that it's not even funny. And the Dallas Cowboys, talking about preparation, you don't even look, it doesn't even look like there's even a clear-cut leader on that team.
Yeah.
And then your second string quarterback gets knocked out. He's not out for the season, but he may miss 2 weeks because of concussion protocol.
Andy Dalton.
Yes, and so Dallas looks so bad because this is what they look like to me. Again, I'm going to give it to Dallas today. Oh, you're going to learn today. You're going to learn today.
Excuse us, Dallas fans. Just bear with it because it's coming today. Go ahead.
It's coming. Here's the problem with Dallas. They don't have proper leadership. Over in, let me read this scripture too. Proverbs 18 and 14 in the Amplified said, the spirit of a man sustains him in sickness, but as for a broken spirit, who can bear it? Dallas needs leadership. There's no leadership in the locker room. There's no leadership on the field. There's no leadership on the coaching staff. And there's no leadership in the front office. And so you have all of this disjointedness, and it seems like the one who was helping to hide it was Dak.
Yeah.
Because if you look at that team, they quit playing for Mike Holmgren. They stopped playing for him.
McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy, I'm sorry. McCarthy. They just stopped playing for him.
Yeah.
Just whatever. Ezekiel Elliott is dropping balls like he got grease in his hands. So there's no clear-cut leader that say, okay, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're going to have to sustain us this year. What are you doing? And then you got Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, to me, if I'm going to blame anybody at all, I'm blaming him. And I'm blaming him first because, first of all, Jerry Jones, you don't want to get a coach that will lead that team. You want to get a coach that will follow you. Because any of these coaches that gave you any pushback about you telling me what players I can have, what players I have to play, what plays I need to run, left. You got rid of them.
Yeah.
But you got all these coaches that were just whatever you like.
Yeah. Yes men.
Yes men for real. And so if you have to be the only owner that I know that is the face of the team. It reminds me of back in the day when the whole East Coast, West Coast rap battle was happening.
The Vibe Awards. Go ahead.
And when Suge Knight got up and said, listen, any of you artists that want to come and be with a label that the owner ain't all up in the videos and
dancing around
and being all up in your stuff and tell you what to come on over here to Death Row. That to me, Jerry Jones is the Puffy
of NFL owners.
NFL owners. He's got more money, more problems. And so I'm looking at this, and I really feel sad for Dallas fans because their fans are funding mediocrity.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones doesn't have to fix anything because as long as they keep paying for tickets, swag, he can keep allowing that team to be mediocre and not make the adjustment. The first adjustment Jerry needs to be is you can't be the GM no more. How are you going to be the owner and the GM?
Wow. Ego, man. I mean, if I can just dive in, you said a mouthful of very, very juicy information. First on the injuries piece, I think that preparation piece is very, very important. And I think that some of the injuries, the lack of preparation because of the shortened season associated with the COVID-19 piece, there were concerns about should we get together and, do all this contact or whatever, social distancing, all of that. I think that definitely contributed to the injury, spate of injuries, I should say, that we have right now. I think also a number of the injuries, like when I think the first week when San Francisco went to New York to play against the Jets, playing on terrible turf has also, I think, contributed to it as well. So there's some upgrades to some stadiums, I think, that are in desperate need that have not happened yet that have also contributed. But no question, preparation, having the proper time, the length of time to get all the kinks out and all those kinds of things, I think is number one, and there is no substitute for it. So ultimately, that probably has been the biggest factor, the shortening of the preseason to hurry up and get to the season. And I think we're seeing the toll that is having on players around the league right now, as you've just laid out. As it relates to Dallas more specifically, Dallas is a very, very proud franchise, a very, very highly valued franchise, might be probably the most valued franchise in the NFL. So Jerry Jones, we get to him in just a second, has the luxury of some cushion that despite what goes on the field, the retail value of that franchise has not necessarily seen a dip. And because he's a stone cold capitalist, that green matters most. Right. I think he's going to weather that storm just for a little bit. As far as on the field, I think the injury to Dak was detrimental in a number of ways. Right. Obviously, from the quarterback standpoint, quarterbacks are often the de facto leader of a team, get most of the attention and all of that. And in Dak's case, that was no exception. He came in early on in his career. They went to the playoffs, had a phenomenal year, hit a combo of him and Ezekiel Elliott. Had many people, Dallas fans and just football fans in general, thinking that Dallas, is going to go back to the Super Bowl and win some championships. They got a lot of potential. They're about to be the team of the future. And that hasn't fully materialized in the 4 years or so that he's been quarterbacking, but people are still giving them their props. Ezekiel Elliott is an all-pro running back. Dak is arguably an all-pro quarterback. And coming into this year, had this contract situation
Right.
where we saw the likes in the last season or two of good quarterbacks getting their bread. Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, Russell Wilson in Seattle. Yeah, for real. You know what I'm saying? With some butter on it.
Right.
Russell Wilson and others. And Dak, even if you're not a Dallas fan, you know, feels that he was deserving of the big payday. Because over the last 4 years or so, he's been one of the better quarterbacks, at least in the upper echelon, the top 50%, top five. Of quarterbacks. And so coming into the year, going back to Jerry Jones, where there was this all off-season tug of war on, is he going to extend his contract? Is he going to give him his bread? In the light of these other quarterbacks getting their bread, other owners taking it upon themselves to say, hey, we value you as a franchise long-term player. We're going to reward what you've done thus far, as well as bank on the fact that you're going to be able to do at least more of this or even more in the future. And that didn't happen.
Right.
So Dak, you know, as Michelle Obama would say, when they go low, we go high, took the high road. He wasn't all in the paper screaming, I should get my money. The ownership is sucky. He didn't cause any disruption. He
Didn't hold out.
Didn't hold out. Wasn't a cancer in the locker room. He just said, you know what? I signed a contract. I'm going to be like Michael Jordan back in the day. I'm going to honor what I signed, even though I think I'm underpaid. And I'm going to play this thing out. I'm going to bet on myself, put my money where my mouth is, pull myself up by the proverbial bootstraps, and do my thing. And then at the end of this year, after demonstrating that, hey, man, I am worth it, look at the proof, I got receipts, then I'll go ahead and get paid. And what happens? He gets not only injured, but injured in a possible career-altering, if not ending, injury, and it had a level of gruesomeness and grotesqueness to it that it was the worst possible case scenario for something to happen to somebody, and for somebody to, if it didn't happen to you, you saw it happen. When those kind of injuries take place, they play on the psyche of anybody that plays football, whether you're at the high school level, college level, or professional level. The one thing you hope don't ever happen to you is one of them gruesome, bone-crunching, your joints is bent the wrong kind of way injury.
And that's in sports, period. Because remember, Paul George had that.
Exactly. Good point. Good point. Sports, but you don't want that to happen. And for Dak, that happened. National TV, players saw it, his teammates saw it. Now, mind you, the players, they know about getting money. Ezekiel Elliott held out when he was trying to get his money. He ended up getting it, but he took a different tact than Dak did. So the team, I'm sure, you know, was rallying around him. Not only is he the leader, but okay, bro, we see that you handled this with a whole lot of class. Now, I wouldn't have done it, but I respect the fact that that's how you played it, and I'm going to give you some love just because you did that. Thank you for being, you know, hey, I'm doing this for the team. I don't want any distraction. I don't want no disruptions. I don't want I don't want to be the blame for anything that we weren't able to accomplish because I got a sideshow going on. Right. So they respected that. So when that cat went down like that, and I'm getting to a point where I'm going so long with this explanation.
It's okay.
Thank you, sir. So when that happened, the whole team had the weight of this dude went out there and did it, and Jerry Jones, they probably was thinking bad words about what to call them, adjectives. You such and such, look at him now. Had you gave him his money, at least he would have that guarantee and all this kind of stuff. Now, he might not get it. And so I think that's contributed to this despondency that you see the team playing with. They're still shook from the fact that, man, I don't even know if I want to still be here.
Right.
Because I got a guy that goes on the line like that and still doesn't get his money, and now this happens. Hey, man, how you, and if that's Dak that you're doing like that, how are you going to do me?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that there's still a psychological shookness, if you will, that they're playing with almost in a fog, almost in a zombie kind of like thing because they witness their compadre, their soldier, their guy, their, you know what I'm saying, their ride or die homie go through that, and he went through that because he was trying to do the honorable thing.
Right.
And so for them, it's like, man, it ain't as important. So I think it got the focus, you know, off a bit.
Right.
And Jerry Jones, with him being all with the face of the franchise, to underscore Pastor Kim's point, we don't even really know who all the other owners of the other teams are. You probably couldn't name more than a handful of other. Why? Because they're anonymous. They're in the background. They got the product out front, the players, the franchise, not them, not Jerry Jones. He wants to be the celebrity, and I think that he's been detrimental to the team. And the final point, when you talked about him wanting to have coaches that are just yes men and, don't have a mind of their own, won't stand up to him, won't say, hey, man, I'm the football expert, you're the owner, get up in that booth and shut up and let me handle all of this.
Make the bread, I'll get the wins.
Okay? When he had Jimmy Johnson, who won those back-to-back championships, with them back in the 90s.
Right.
After him, you had Barry Switzer. Another one, both of them, they won on the college level, championships,
right,
and on the pro level. Matter of fact, Barry Switzer's team, you had the leftovers of what Jimmy Johnson had built. Right. And instead of Jerry Jones being the so-called, penultimate winner, the quintessential guy that wants to be number one, hey, you got a winning formula. Don't mess with it. Get out the lab. Right. You win the champion, but you want the medal and all that kind of stuff. And when it came down to them grown men saying, hey, man, I'm a grown man first. Right. Either you're going to let me do this or I'm going to bounce. I'm sure I wasn't in the conversation, but I'm sure it went something along the lines of Jerry Jones said, well, hey, man, I built this team. This is my team. I'm the owner. Right. I'll win without you. I don't need you. It ain't because of you that we won. It's because of me. And okay, I'll let you have it. So since the 90s, when them cats that know football and right. stood up to him as a grown man
right.
left, they ain't won jack since. And Jerry right. Jones has been the constant that Dallas has had right. since that time, which means, sir, you don't know what you're doing as far as assembling a team. So get a coach that has a pedigree, that has receipts, that has experience, that has demonstrated on different levels that right. they do this. Let them do it. You still get love. You're the owner of the team. You can celebrate like Justin Turner did after y'all win the championship.
Right.
But until that time, you might not win another championship. So Dallas fans, do a write-in campaign to the owner saying, hey, man, just make the money, get off to the side, stay in the booth, and shut up. And get us a quality coach and back up off him and let him go ahead and build the team and coach it and make all the player personnel moves that he deems are best for the squad to get back to a championship caliber squad.
Yeah. Listen, instead of Dallas having a dynasty, Dallas seems like they died nasty.
Ooh, he is in rare form today, boy, giving you metaphors galore.
Hey, listen, my opinion is this on Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is an insecure leader. He only wants to win as long as he is in control. Mm. And I read this quote, and we'll close with this, by John Maxwell, and it says this: insecure leaders think everything is about them. And as a result, every action, every piece of information, every decision is put through their filter of self-centeredness.
Wow. Wow.
If that doesn't describe JJ
to a TT,
then I don't know what does. Hey, listen, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You have just experienced the best half hour that your week has possibly had. Tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel, right here, 7 to 7 p.m. every Tuesday night, 98.7 FM. Joy 1340 AM, into his courts. We'll see you next week. Until next week, have an amazing week. Hey.